Good morning. Welcome into 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. You can also listen on PGA Tour Radio. That is Channel 92 on Sirius XM. I am Gary Williams. Great to have you with us on this Monday morning. This program is always brought to you by Century Insurance, right by you. Their partnerships in the game of golf from the first tee, certainly to the way that they sponsor that first event on the PGA Tour calendar as well, and the United States Golf Association. Golf Pride, every grip at every level. If you look at the guy who won yesterday, the only thing that's touching that club are his grips, and they are Golf Pride. They are the most trusted grip anywhere in the world. And of course, Peter Millar, everything that I have worn. It's great to see their team here in Charlotte last week. For the last 15 years, they have refined performance and luxury for the better part of 2 decades. And the cradle of American golf, which is an anchor site for the USGA and Major Championship Golf, of course, is Pinehurst Resort. There is always a good reason to be booking a trip to go to Pinehurst. We have a lot to get to in our hour. And by the way, we're leading to live golf, baby, on a Monday. The region's tradition did not conclude. So you got a bunched up leaderboard. You got a couple of guys at the top, Angel Cabrera, Jerry Kelly. So 9 a.m. live, the resumption of the final round of that event. That is just under an hour from now. Scottie Scheffler is now a 3-time major champion. My thoughts on him in just 1 second. But Ron Green Jr., I've got 2 guys coming in here today who have seen a lot. And that's not to say, I'm not trying to say they're old. No, they've seen a lot, though. They've covered a lot of major championship golf. Ron Green Jr., who lives here in Charlotte, from the Global Golf Post, is going to be with me in studio, and following him in studio is Michael Bamberger, who also has seen a lot of the greats over the last 3-4 decades. So their perspective on what transpired this week and in the grander scheme of things. Let's show you the final leaderboard, as much of it as we can as it pertains to the top 10. Scottie Scheffler wins by 5. Winning by 5 doesn't happen much in majors. As a matter of fact, Tiger's the last guy in terms of winning by 5 or more in 2 consecutive starts. He joins Tiger on that list to do it. He won by 8 in Dallas. He now wins by 5, and that included bogeying the last, Bryson DeChambeau. Again, he has become somebody who says, majors, it's my environment. He finishes in a tie for second. Harris English shoots 65 on Sunday. His best finish in a major, as is the same for Davis Riley. Davis Riley made an 8 on the 7th hole. He was 4 over after 7 and then played the balance of his round 3 under. That is a heck of a performance. He finishes second, and then you have Taylor Pendrith, Johnny Vegas, who is the 18 and 36-hole leaders, or 36-hole leader, and JT Poston from the state of North Carolina. They finish in 5th, and then John Rahm, Keegan Bradley, Matt Fitzpatrick, you see on that screen. But let me just add, Joaquin Niemann, Ben Griffin, Ryan Gerard, Joe Highsmith, Denny McCarthy, Siwoo Kim, Matt Fitzpatrick. All those guys also in a tie for 8th at 4 under par. So all of them get a top 10. Scottie Scheffler is not only a 3-time major champion sitting here this morning, he's somebody who, if you look at his age and if you looked at the way that he is put together, and I mean all of it, from the technical side of things to his approach to the game, to the way he prepares himself, to the people that he has around him, and from mind to body, he's the guy. And everybody out there knows that he's the guy. And with all due respect to Rory McIlroy, who is one of the greater players, not only of his generation, most certainly, but also of all time. And we'll see when it's all said and done where he is in one of the most nuanced barroom conversations you can have. Is he 12th all time? Is he 15th? Here's what I would say about where Scottie Scheffler may be going. Because major championship windows for players historically, who are historically great, really is about 5 to 7 years. And his window right now is wide open. And how he did it this week, and what I'm not going to do much of anymore is issue disclaimers about when I invoke the names of others, that I say he's not them. I think you know that, but people kind of get hysterical like, he's not Tiger, he's not Jack. But see, when somebody does things that only those 2 people have done, what else are you supposed to do when you're trying to give people context of the things comparatively in terms of his performance and his achievement, because only those two guys have done what he has done in terms of getting to 3 major championships before turning the age of 29. That's heady stuff. I like small tables, not because I'm diminutive, which I am, because I think when you separate yourself and then you're in this really exclusive company, you know, think about it. Think about a high top and everybody says, well, who gets to sit at that table? Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and Scottie Scheffler for now, and that's where he is. And how does he do that? There are certain things that he does in terms of the data as it relates to now us being in this advanced metric age of looking at what we call strokes gained against everybody else. And he is historically, since the advent of that, in now his 3rd year. So this is not a smaller sample size. This is 3 full seasons. That's a lot of data. It's a lot of golf shots. He's right there with Tiger Woods. Now Tiger has 82 and 15, which is crazy. And I'm not suggesting that. But what I'm suggesting is that he has the chance to go to very lofty positions with bold type. 7, 8, 9. You know what that number's associated with? I don't know, 35, 40. And to me, you know, 30 is, or 40 is the new 30 because of the depth in the game. The other part that he does share with them is more on how you get through things during these weeks, because the enormity of these weeks, as Brooks Koepka gave us the algorithm sitting in his pre-tournament presser in 2019 at Bethpage, when he reduced 156 to 12 in about 38 seconds, when he said there's only about 12 people here who can do what I'm getting ready to embark on, because I've done it before and I'm getting ready to do it again, and he did. So how did they do that? When they're not their best, they manage to get the best out of that. So for all the hero shots and the flyer that Scottie Scheffler went on Saturday, 5 under in his last 5, when Bryson DeChambeau and Jon Rahm touched the lead, and you're going, oh my, it's on. And what did he do? He goes 14 birdies, 15, par 16, and birdies 17 and 18. You know, making par, birdie on those closing holes feels like you've just gone 6 under on those 3 holes to punctuate his round. And what was a tie at the top of the lead for a moment was a 3-shot lead that felt more significant. But I want to take you back to the first day, because this is where the Tiger Jack thing, to me, really, I think that you can contextualize it. They were salvation experts. It wasn't that we sat here and talked about, gosh, that 65 on Sunday at Augusta National. Of course, that's lore. But it's the 73 that when he wrote all the numbers in the box and it had added up to 69, that's why. It is getting the most out of when you're less than your best. And oh, the last thing, there's a great line in A Few Good Men when Jack Nicholson, when they go down to Gitmo and they're questioning him, and he says, I'm a fair man, but this blanking heat is making me crazy. When the heat gets really hot, attrition gets to a lot of people. Not that guy. He's a problem for this generation of players. Contributor to 5 clubs and, of course, host of the starter that precedes us. If you're listening on PGA Tour Radio's Taylor Zarzour, here is a little small sampling of his conversation last evening with the winner of the 107th PGA Championship, Scottie Scheffler.
I'm Taylor Zarzour, and I am with Scottie Scheffler, the 2025 PGA champion. We're getting used to doing these major championship winning interviews, except for the last 2 times we did them, you were wearing a green jacket. What is the significance of winning the PGA Championship?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a very, very challenging tournament to win. You know, you got to beat a lot of good players, and you know, this week was a really difficult golf course, and the conditions were even more challenging over the weekend. Today and yesterday we had a lot of wind, and it was tough out there, but did a good job of battling, and you know, I'm fortunate to be sitting here with the trophy.
You mentioned the difficult conditions, and you also said that it was a challenging week overall. Why?
Well, I felt like I kind of battled my swing a little bit the first 2 days, and I did as good of a job as I've done all season of just posting a score. That was some of the best scoring I think that I did all year for sure, and maybe in the last couple of years. I mean, it was really good, and did a good job of keeping myself in the tournament. And then I had the great finish on Saturday to kind of give myself a little bit of a cushion going into today, which I then proceeded to lose on the front nine. But did a good job of battling on the back.
Yesterday, on Saturday, you went 5 under over the last 5 holes. And as usual, you don't show much emotion as you're making an eagle or as you're making a birdie. You stay so present. Is the challenge when it isn't going as well any different, like what happened as you just referenced on the front nine? Well,
I think you can't get overly excited, and you can't get overly down. And there was definitely some times this week where I could have gotten overly excited, and there was also some times where I could have gotten a little bit down on myself. But overall, I did a good job of staying even keel. Teddy did a really good job of keeping me in a good headspace, and we battled all week, and proud to be sitting here.
Do you know that you're tied for the lead, Scottie? When you get on the 10th tee, do you think about simply executing that shot, or do you think about a different mindset in order to win?
Well, when I was walking to the 10th tee, I poked my head up at the leaderboard on the there's a big scoreboard there behind the 9th green, and I saw that John had birdied 10 and 11 to get to 9 under. We were both at 9 under, and so I just told myself that I've got more holes to play, and it's up to me to go out there and have a good back nine. And I was still at that point in control of the tournament, and it was up to me to execute.
What do you think is the most important shot you hit all week?
The most important shot? Shoot. I mean, it's hard to really boil it down to one. I mean, the tee shot I hit on 14 yesterday was pretty nice. Also, the tee shot I hit on 14 again today was pretty nice as well. That was a really key birdie, and that hole I think was good to me over the weekend.
It's interesting, last night when he was on the live from set, when it was pretty much all over in terms of all the responsibilities you have when you won, it was interesting that he said his tee shot on 11 was what he thought was the most important swing or shot of his day. He had just come off making birdie on 10, and it's a hole that doesn't set up for his eye off the tee. And one other thing about him and his competitiveness, which I think sometimes that we try to measure or gauge competitiveness based on how demonstrative somebody is. That is not the way it is all the time. This week, he made 10 bogeys. Following those bogeys, he made birdies 6 times, 60% of the time in a major. And just to give you context about that and how good is that, the bounce back stat on the PGA Tour, the leaders every year are right around 30 to 32%. And you know who has been second in that stat going back now this year to 2024 to 2023? That guy. And one last thing before we take a break is attrition. It's a word that we associate with kind of things that, whether they're arduous and hard and they demand a lot of you, and then your mind and your body start to not cooperate again or at all. And that happens a lot in major championship golf. That's part of this. The 3 major championships that he's won, and he's won all 3 by 3 or more, and the last guy to do that, winning his first 3 by 3 or more, Seve. Again, great company to keep. When it gets really, really hot and it seems like, okay, this is when it really matters, when the blender is really spinning, he does all the things that are either required of him or are proper of him. And that's exactly what he did yesterday. When it got hot, he makes birdie on 14 and 15, and everybody else kind of, I don't want to say wilt, because that's not fair. It's hard, very, very hard. But down the stretch, if you're going to say to me who's going to blink last, it starts with him. And second place is really far back. We're in Mecklenburg County. The South Carolina line is 5 miles away. Second's back there. He does not blink. And every major, look at it. He hasn't been firing on all cylinders. 2022 when he won the Masters, then won it again in 2024. And they made the turn in 2024 onto that second 9, and Ludwig Oberg and Max Homa and Nikolai Horgaard. They're all right there. And he stays rock steady, bulletproof. And those 3 make mistakes. And as Jack always said, one of the most important things to know about these 4 events, let the other guy make the blunder. He doesn't do it. He's a closer, and he's now won 3 major championships as a 54-hole leader. 3-0. It's a nice way to start a major championship career. We take a break. Ron Green Jr. from the Global Golf Post, and somebody who has seen a lot of major championship golf and a lot of the greats over the last 3+ decades. His thoughts, and then Michael Bamberger a little bit later on a Monday edition of 5 Clubs Top of the Hour Regions Tradition. We got live golf for you at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. That to follow us. We're back with you right after this. Welcome back in on this Monday to 5 Clubs on Golf Channel and also on PGA Tour Radio. That's Channel 92 on Sirius XM. In this segment brought to you by Golf Pride. When it comes to grips, anything you need, and they've been doing it as long as anybody, and that's why more players at every level trust Golf Pride than any grip in the world. Joining me now in studio is somebody who's been covering this sport, and before that, and I know he learned a lot from his dad, not just about his vocation, but about life itself. Ron Green Jr. from the Global Golf Post, also a Charlotte resident. You've seen a lot of major championship golf. Thank you for coming in. Good morning.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Well, we'll get to the grander parts of the week and all that stuff, because you've seen it all since it came back here, starting in 2003, men's professional golf. Scottie Scheffler, I made the comp. I had Frank Nobilo on here, a week and a half ago, and he loves tennis. And I think that Sampras and Scheffler have got some similarities, like not seeking attention, and it's really special how they do it. But there's a flair that maybe you associate with others. What about him among greats? Because he's great.
Yes.
Stands out for you?
I think it's, maybe to boil it down, his consistency, not just in how he plays, but in who he is. I think being grounded the way he is in these fundamentals, I think it was Sam Burns said that's a byproduct. His golf is a byproduct of who he is, how he lives his life, and it sort of flows through everything. Now we saw the competitive fire sort of come out at the very end there. He disguises it very well, but I just think, he's got this resoluteness about him, this trust in who he is and what he does, and the wind doesn't blow him back and forth. He walks through it, and when the moment arrives, he becomes the moment, and I think that's what the great ones do. When you look back over 72 holes, I think what's neat is to find all the things that you kind of make those threads into the tapestry that is why all these winners win. I honestly think it started Thursday. Obviously, it started Thursday, but specifically because of what he managed to get out of a round that was far less than his best. I, like you, saw Tiger turn 73 into 69 so many times that we stopped counting. I thought his 69 Thursday was indicative of him being able to maximize less than his best. And I thought to a degree until he got to 15, Ron, on Friday, and then he didn't miss a shot coming in. Right. Or that was Saturday, but even on Friday, I thought, again, his 69, he made birdie on 14 and 15 when he was just kind of scratching along. He gets what he can get out of what's less than his best, which I think speaks to something that he talked about last night, having patience. Yeah, I think we've seen the best ones do that. They avoid the trouble. They avoid the big wreck in NASCAR. They see their way through it, and they can see beyond where they are. Just keep going, keep hanging in there. Let yourself just let it come to you a little bit instead of forcing it. You see players lots of times really try to force the moment, force the issue, hit that shot, and then it comes back to bite him. I think he just takes his deep breath. He just goes on. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Now, doesn't mean he's going to win every time, but you, especially in these major championships, you just have to do that. You hear players all the time in advance talk about that. I just got to be patient. These are tests of patience. And nobody's more patient than him. And then when the moment comes, whether it's Saturday afternoon and all of a sudden, you know, it's like those guys in drag race and suddenly they hit that button and the explosion goes off and there they go. I mean, he changed the tournament then, and then even, you know, Sunday when he's going to the 10th tee and you're sort of like, what just blew in on the wind? Like,
yes.
How did we get, he's 5 ahead walking off the 5th green, suddenly he's even going to the 10th tee and you're like, sort of what just happened. He just, you know, made one little, squared his shoulders a little bit. You know, caddy Ted Scott said he asked me going to 10, what do you see in my swing? I said, well, your swing looks really good, but you keep hitting it left, so why don't you try aiming more to the right? And, you know, maybe it's just as simple as that, but it just, man, he just fell into that little slot, and there it went. If
you look at the 3 majors he's won, I thought him sharing when he did win the Masters in 2022, the enormity of it all really got to him that Sunday morning. Oh, yeah. And his start, again, he didn't come out blazing. 2024, similarly, it was scratchy. Missed the green on, short of the green on 1, over the green on 2, hit a good tee shot. I'm not going to get into rehashing his final round, but the point is, there were guys who were right there, and they fell away. And he never blinked. No. And I think that's also something of, whether it's belief, whether it's knowing that I'm going to hit it out of the center of the face more often than you are, I think even deeper in the last parts of major championships, it gets even thinner, the air. Yeah. And he doesn't seem to be wobbly, and he doesn't wobble, and he hasn't yet. He's got, maybe from the old movies, he seems like a Texas Ranger kind of guy. I mean, he's Gary Cooper and all that. He's just, you know, he knows who he is, and, you know, he doesn't try to change things in the middle. He might make a slight adjustment, but there seems to be no panic in him at all. I'm sure he may feel it inside a little bit, the old paddling beneath the water, but no, he's going to be there, and I think he is well past the point now when his name is up there and guys glance at leaderboards like, I mean, I'm trying to make birdies, but there's that guy. I know he's going to make birdies. I know he's not coming back to me. You know, I think he can play at sort of, I don't know, variable speeds. It looks like, you know, Bryson plays at 1 speed. He plays at 180% or whatever. There's something maniacal about it. Yeah, I mean, and Rahm, I think, is more nuanced than that, but I think there's a lot more nuance to Scottie's game. You see it around the greens, the shots he saves there. I mean, for all the consistency and hitting the ball the way he does, watching him get the ball up and down is just, I mean, he's in the Tiger, he doesn't have maybe the flair of Tiger and Phil, but he's in that. Couldn't agree more. There's an efficiency to him. Usually he's missed it on the proper side, and I'm not saying that takes anything away from his efficiency by being clean around the greens, and any modest stress is diffused almost immediately. The other part about him is being in this position is something that you dream about. The trophies. You don't dream about media responsibilities. No. You don't dream about the sense of responsibility of being the #1 player in the world, and then compartmentalizing those things, and when it's time to work, you work. That's where I think his peer group has another problem, is that he said it last night in his press conference, right? He said, look, we were not prepared for this, but my life has changed. Yeah. But he is now adapting to the things that are tedious at times, but he does it. A lot of guys have touched #1 in the last 15 years. He's got a hold on it right now that I don't think is going anywhere, because he knows how to where it's time to do and that was the other thing. I know you were in the pre-championship press conference when he said that John Fields taught them a lesson about in college. When you're here, you're here. When you're in class, you're in class. I don't expect you to be thinking about golf when you've got a trig exam. Yeah. Or when you're at home, enjoy yourself. And I asked him after that, I said, was that a learned thing about you know, being focused on where you are when you're there? And he said, of course it was. And I've applied that. It's clear he has. Yeah, I mean, and you could just see the joy he gets from his little boy yesterday when he carries him into the scoring room after, you know, to sign his scorecard. And you ever use a scorecard holder to kind of amuse your child and you throw it on the ground? Yeah. And not Legos. No, and you know, I saw some pictures of him at like daycare on the floor with them, and then he comes back out to go get the Wanamaker trophy and hands Bennett to his wife,
to Meredith, and Bennett starts crying and reaching for Daddy like this, so Daddy puts him back and carries him out. I said, he's the only guy he couldn't shake all day was the guy that mattered the most to him. And I think he has such a balance there. You listen to him that it's just, he can compartmentalize it, and he is not, I'm sure when he goes home, his score doesn't reflect who he is at home. Some people, that's their value, or their, it stays with them. I'm sure there are bad days that it's like, man, I let that one get away. But he just, there's a fundamental grace and goodness and just sense of being that I think that's part of why he is who he is on the golf course.
He went not full Belichick. He didn't say on to Fort Worth, but somebody asked him about celebrating, and he said, not really. The show moves on to Fort Worth. I'm thinking, why don't you just say on to Cincinnati, which is the great line from Belichick so many years ago. In the grand scheme of things, when you start to enter these conversations where 15-3 before the age of 29, his major window is open. And the fact that he answered back to what Rory had already done, it was the year of Rory, the spring of Rory, the career Grand Slam, to lay down a marker in Dallas by 8 and to come here and win, to me, it says something. That is something.
And it seems funny now that we were asking, well, what's wrong with Scottie? I mean, he hadn't won in, 4 or 5 months. There's sort of that recency bias because, he's maybe the edge has gone a little bit. Bang, he answers it back. And now, I heard you say it earlier, it's hard not to mention Jack and Tiger. And you've got to go special places to get in that. And lots of times, through the years, somebody, well, Jack did this, Tiger did that, and you sort of roll your eyes. Not the same thing. Well, we're getting toward the same thing now. We could argue he's got to do another 7 or 8 years,
sure.
but he's doing it right now. And he's been ranked, number 1 for as long as I can remember. I mean, he's there, he's put himself there, and he's not going anywhere. I thought all along Oakmont was the one this year for him because as hard as that golf course is and the way it's going to test you, that he's built for that U.S. Open. And we may find out in another month.
I also will say this, the 2 guys that you mentioned, Bryson DeChambeau and Jon Rahm, they're seen infrequently by the lion's share of people who consume golf on television. It's better when Rahm's in the mix.
Yes.
And Bryson DeChambeau, to his great credit, is living in contention in majors now, and he's done so for the last year and a half. And one last thing, the last 6 major winners, going back to the beginning of last year, it is Scheffler, Schauffele, DeChambeau, Schauffele, McIlroy, Scheffler. In an age, Ron, where we have a lot of guys we say can win, the ones at the deep end of the pool have won the last 6.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a great run on the PGA Tour of winners the last, 2 months or so, too. But, yeah, I mean, this is, we had that spell where you had some uncommon, I will say, major champions. We're not getting that now. We're getting the best players winning the biggest events. And I think seeing Jon Rahm back in contention, you're reminded of how much you miss him.
Great ingredient.
And and to hear him talk about it, even in his disappointment yesterday, like I had so much fun for 15 holes, and he's back there, and we miss him. I mean, you can obviously go see him on live, but I think he's such a big personality. He's such a big player, and Bryson is just. I mean, he's a star, a character unto himself. I mean, you can't. He's magnetic. You can't not watch him. I mean, it looks uncomfortable how he plays golf sometimes to me, but gosh, I mean, he's bouncing up hills. He's high-fiving. He's talking to people. He waited there yesterday afternoon for Scottie to come in. He'll be there at Oakmont too. But for a tournament that was sort of was star-starved and sort of the narrative was challenged there for a day or two. Suddenly it got Saturday afternoon, those 3 guys were on top, and then Sunday there they were again. I think it turned out pretty darn well.
I think it did. Thank you for coming in. Always appreciate your thoughts. Ron Green Jr., the Global Golf Post. He will be heard and seen here much more throughout 2025 when we continue. Michael Bamberger, another guy who's covered a lot of major championship golf from Golf Magazine. He joins me in studio right after this. Back in on this Monday here on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. You can also listen. It's Channel 92. It's PGA Tour Radio on Sirius XM. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. Wherever you go, whatever you do, if you're active, if you're always at work, whether it's sport coats or sportswear, or playing golf or being in the gym, they've got you covered at Peter Millar. All right, joining me now in the studio, nice to have him with me, is a senior writer at Golf Magazine, golf.com, and an author as well. And just a little note, in a couple of weeks, an extended conversation on his book that will be available at the beginning of June. I'm looking forward to that conversation with him, which will be available in about a week and a half's time. And that is Michael Bamberger, my friend. Good morning.
Gary, delighted to be with you.
Good to see you. Like Ron, you guys have you've seen a lot of major championship golf. Comps can be fun. Scottie Scheffler, I think, possesses, whether it's when you look at his golf swing and Brandon Chambly's showing you lower body and it reminds him of this and that and the other, and then personality and presentation and focus and all that. Do elements of him remind you of somebody that you have observed?
Now, this may seem unlikely, but the first name that comes to mind as you're saying that, and I'm sure you've thought about this because you've thought about everything, Mike Soucek.
Wow.
Because he's got those broad shoulders and sort of narrow waist and sort of this like humpy-dumpty kind of manner. And like he doesn't look like he's any great thing, and he is this great thing. And Soucek was much the same way. I never saw Soucek, but people said he absolutely bombed it. This guy absolutely bombs it. But like Tiger, oh yeah, this guy's the whole package. Fred Couples the same. But with with Scheffler, I would never really guess it seeing him on a range until you see him play tournament golf on really hard courses. And it's like, wow, this guy actually doesn't miss shots, putts like a dream, drives it a mile. Sees the whole thing. So he's really out of step with his time and place and his sort of simple view. It's more than see ball, hit ball, but like when he's talking about live golf, it's like, well, they decided to leave. It's not like they decided to take the money. It was like such an elegant, insightful, short, simple way to look at it. And I think that's his view of life, and it seems to come from another era.
Okay, you just hit on it. I think somebody like him who had this dream when he was a little boy, like, I'm going to wear slacks in Dallas in July because that's what pros do.
Right.
And it's not like he was watching, Hale Irwin and Ray Floyd when he was growing up, but I think he would have lived quite well in that generation, which I called the Rough Riders. Like they played golf.
Yeah.
And social media didn't exist. And it doesn't mean that, we live when we live. I think because he's that way and not inclined to want to do sizzle reels and be curious about the tedium of people's thoughts on things, would make him somebody who would have been really, really good, really at any time. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think, yes, he could have played well in any era. And, he's playing the people he's playing with. He's playing the golf course. He'll take it all on. If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, he'll move on. And you don't see any psychobabble coming. You don't hear any psychobabble coming out of him. He's just really a pleasure. I've always felt this way. And I think he's very bright in his own way, but he doesn't need to. I would say Nicklaus was this way, and I think Tiger in his own way was this way. He doesn't need to show off how smart he is. He just is Scottie, and it's cool.
Yeah, I always felt, and whether it was, I didn't hear Jack in press conferences, when he was in his 30s, but he started doing a little bit of television even when he was still kind of contending in majors in the mid to early 80s. He's a righteous guy. Scottie does, but at times he'll pick a spot to be that way. In terms of the focus part, to me, is the other thing about it, is that he didn't dream of doing pre-tournament press conferences.
Right.
And he didn't dream of things that I think his agent, really keeps on the periphery, and he'll indulge a sponsor for a shoot here and there. The reason why I think his peer group has a real problem on their hands is that he is adapted to when life changed in 22, when there are obligations and maybe a sense of responsibility for all the ancillary stuff, which was not part of the dream. And he manages all of those things in addition to the efficiency of when it's time to work. I love the work, and I'm going to do the work. And that's why I think he's not going anywhere.
That's really well said. He's got eye on the prize like absolutely nobody else in the game. right now. What did you think of the moment on Thursday when he started, he very clearly laid out a path for why, or an argument for why he thought they should not be playing the ball down. What did you think of that?
You know, it's interesting. I always, my sensitivity is that in major championship golf, it's different for a lot of reasons. And one of them is, like, I don't want to associate even a day with them with ball in hand. And if there's any way to avoid that, that's how I feel. I thought what he said was, one, it was not melodramatic, it was not hysterical. I thought it was really measured, and I thought it had weight because he is who he is, and he really doesn't venture into those things. But that was important to him, and I was out there when he hit that shot into the water on 16, and Scheffler did the same thing. I appreciated him taking the position that he took, even though my tendency is to fall in the other direction. But I also didn't do this for a living. I don't know what it's like to see something like that happen when my livelihood is on the line. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. Everything you just said. I talked to Padraig Harrington. He said, well, why didn't you just hit a worm burner down the fairway, get the mud off the ball, pitch it on, and make the putt? He could have, maybe would have won by 7 instead of 5. I thought at the time that he said it, that the week was over for him. So it shows you how little I know about anything. But I really did think that because, like, oh, they're in his head. And it shows you how, because that's what happens all the time. Like the USGA, not so much anymore, but the old Sandy Tatum USGA, they got in the players' heads. And, a lot of them never recovered. Well, the PGA of America was in Scottie Scheffler's head, not in a good way for that Thursday. I thought, oh, he might not get over this. And it shows you how good his head is, that over the next 3 days, he did. He
did. He also, I think competitiveness is interesting. People tell you, oh, boy, he's really competitive. They're all hyper competitive. And then, some we associate with being like, well, he's maniacal about his competitiveness. He'll keep you out there at dark. If you're playing horse, you're going to play another game, even though it was supposed to be 2 out of 3. Now it's 3 out of 5. I love the term, who plays broke? Like who Jordan, it's a Thursday night in Minnesota in 1996, and why in the world is he digging deep to score 18 in the fourth quarter to win a game when they've already won 65 and they're the 1 seed by 9 games? Tiger, every day was a referendum on his identity of him as a golfer. I think in a less demonstrative way, Scottie Scheffler plays broke. The idea of complacency and sense of accomplishment, he does not genuflect. Somebody asked him last night about celebrating. He said, on to Fort Worth. Yeah. I mean, he just moves on. I think he plays broke in a very understated way. Yeah, that's cool. And that very quality in any walk of life, playing broke, it will keep you young for a long time because it keeps you so hungry. And once you're because it's nourishing.
Sure.
It's nourishing for you. Major championship golf, over time, these things are huge now. These cities are being built with respect to hospitality. And who's equipped? And who seems to be equipped? And some are equipped for a while. I think, whether it's being an 18-hole leader, a 36-hole leader, to me, the other part of it is, which was Nicklaus's kind of ethos, which was, look, don't make that critical mistake. Few can handle this. Let the other guy make the mistake. And if you look at his 3 major wins, Scottie, the final day was not him going on some historic heater. It was picking the spots, showing up, making the birdies when they were required of him, like 14 and 15 yesterday, and let the attrition of the thin air of the last 9 holes of a major let the other guys succumb to that. He doesn't. Yeah.
Who do you regard now as the best player, has the best chance to win the career Grand Slam?
It would be him, because I think at 28 years of age, and again, I value being where your feet are for a lot of reasons, professionally, personally, and life does get in the way. You've written about this. You start having children, and some players have told me, I don't know, they're probably worth a shot over the course of a tournament week when you have your first and then your second. I look at him because, one, He insists on being in contention in all of them. His Open Championship record is the one that, and I don't want to call it deficient, is not as robust in terms of living in the top 10 like the other three. I would start with him without hesitation. How about you?
I would too. And here's the crazy thing, and this is nutty, because the last time we talked, you said, "Oh, what's going to happen to Rory McIlroy now? Will the floodgates open?" I said, "Well, if he gets to 6, that's incredible." But if this guy won the career Grand Slam this year, finished the career Grand Slam, it wouldn't be absolutely crazy. And here's why I say it: can he win an Oakmont? Of course. Why not?
Yes.
How many golfers are better than him? Nobody. So why shouldn't he? Okay, that's a lot. That's huge. That's a career to win 2 majors in 1 year. But, and here's the big but, so now you've got a month leading into the Open Championship at Portrush. It's hard to imagine another golfer for whom that would weigh less on him than Scottie Scheffler of completing it. He'll still say, here's the course, I'm going to take it on, and I'll take it on the best I can. You wouldn't say that of Jordan Spieth at the PGA Championship. You wouldn't say that of Rory McIlroy going to Augusta every year. You would say that of this guy because he's got his own way of going through life, and it's one thing at a time.
It would be fascinating if we went from Jack doing it in 1966 to Tiger, then we wait all this time in 2000, and then we go to 2025 for Rory, and Scottie says, I'll handle this in 3 months.
Gary, as far as I know, are we the first people to talk about this guy winning the career Grand Slam this year? Because if we are, I would like the time duly noted.
It will be noted. And if I did say floodgates when you were on recently, I am ashamed of myself.
No,
I hate that term.
You probably didn't use it.
Yeah, no, I think what it was can Rory 2.0, this sense of liberation, being unburdened by that 10-year pursuit of any major, and now it's the career Grand Slam. Could we see him over the next 3 to 5 years, maybe equal what he did in the first part? I don't know. You and I are going to have a very lengthy conversation about your new book. We take a break for now. I come back, wrap up this show, but much more from Michael Bamberger. And again, you're going to hear what is going to be an hour-long conversation about what is a fabulous new book available for all of you in a couple of weeks. We're back here on 5 Clubs right after this. Welcome back in. Couple minutes left here on this Monday edition of 5 Clubs tomorrow. Johnson Wagner. He might as well be Bryson. I think he hit as many shots at Quail Hollow after dark over the last 4 days on Live From as some of the players who competed in the PGA Championship. Johnson Wagner, Brendan DeYoung with me the entire show tomorrow with those two, and we will talk at length about everything that transpired over the last 4 days, concluding last night with Scottie Scheffler. And it was interesting what Michael Bamberger said in terms of, you look at some of these players, and Jon Rahm, when he's tied for the lead and he's got to putt momentarily to be the solo leader, had he won yesterday, he goes to the Open Championship with the chance to complete the career Grand Slam. We've got right now these players with multiple majors, and they've been accumulating over the last year and a half. Xander Schauffele has 2 of the 4. Scottie Scheffler now has 2 of the 4, and he goes to the U.S. Open, obviously having not won it. And you look back to the beginning of last year, Bryson only has 1, but he has 2 U.S. Opens, is that we are seeing the best players perform best. And of course, Rory completed the career Grand Slam. One last thing about Scottie Scheffler in terms of the way that he is put together. He said last night that one of the most important lessons he learned in his life was when he was 7 years old. And I don't know how you teach a 7-year-old patience. You have a 7-year-old? Are they patient? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? No, and they probably don't even know what it means. But Randy Smith, his longtime instructor, said, and this was Scottie saying, is that he taught me the lesson of patience. And the point is that the journey in the game of golf to be as good as you can be, it's a long one. And I used to kind of not dismiss the term, the process. I don't anymore for a lot of reasons. And players have to rely on that. They have to rely that they are moving forward, even though their results would quantitatively indicate that they're either not moving forward, they're static, or maybe they're moving backwards. And it's not easy to just think that you're always moving forward when you're falling in things that matter, like where you stand in the FedEx Cup standings or the official World Golf Rankings, and value them any way you want. Scottie Scheffler does have that, and he displays it on the golf course. And one of the reasons why he does is because he has unwavering belief in himself. So he can be patient. So when the time was right late yesterday to pull off the tee shot on 14, he was equipped to do it. And then on 15 as well. He played those 2 holes. We talk about the Green Mile, talk about it all you want, I get it. He played 14 and 15, the underbelly, before the gauntlet, 9 under par. Patience is one of the reasons why he's a 3-time major champion. I appreciate Ron Green Jr., Michael Bamberger being with me here on this Monday. And as I mentioned, Brendan Young, Johnson Wagner with me for the entire program. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Will Lowry, Lydia Ko will be on the program. Coming up now, how about some live golf? The region's tradition, Angel Cabrera, Jelly Kelly leading bunch leaderboard. Enjoy it. We'll see you Tuesday.